Money talks, dirty cash, man. Yeah, that's what happens when you lose $4 billion in stocks. Now, what did we learn, Disney? What did we learn? You learned that Donald Trump and the Trump administration is not bigger than the program. And who runs the program? The consumer. Now, I used to work in retail. I used to work in the food industry, and I work in nightlife. And one thing they like to say is that the customer is always right. And us employees, we used to be like, F the customer. They're not always right. Well, in this case, the customer's always right. First Amendment over everything, Buki.
All right, so let's just start here. The First Amendment isn't up for negotiation, period. Free speech is about as American as coffee in the morning, backyard barbecues, and complaining about gas prices. And if there's one thing we've learned over and over, it's that people here do not play when it comes to protecting that right. Which brings us to Disney. Yeah, Disney, who apparently thought they could mess with free speech and just skip off singing Hakuna Matata. Spoiler alert, there was a lot of Matata. The last couple of days have been rough for them. Like, who at corporate thought this was a good idea? Oh yeah, let's silence the comedians. People love that. No, people across the board, left, right, whatever, were like, nah, absolutely not. And honestly, that's the real plot twist here. Mickey Mouse managed to do something even Congress can't do. Unite Americans. And speaking of comebacks, Jimmy Kimmel is officially back on air today. If you're watching this on Tuesday, you'll see him cracking jokes again, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out swinging harder than ever. Meanwhile, Trump is probably pacing around the golf course muttering about how unfair it is that comedians can roast him again. You can almost hear him going, "Why does Goofy get more freedom than me?" So yeah, what you're about to see is the full FAFO cycle in action. Disney effed around, the people spoke up, and now they're smack in the middle of the find out phase. And honestly, I don't think the ride's over yet. So grab your popcorn, grab a soda, maybe even some Mickey-shaped pretzels if you've got 'em. Because this is one Disney attraction they definitely didn't plan for.
People are boycotting Disney for firing Jimmy Kimmel.
What happened?
After Disney fired Jimmy Kimmel for making a joke about Trump put out a post bragging about how he got him fired. People are saying his free speech got politicized. And all he did was make a joke. So now millions of people are boycotting Disney and all of their businesses.
Every single one?
Listen. Every single one, from CNN, Hulu, Disney Plus, ABC, ESPN, Marvel, Pixar, Lucasfilm, National Geographic. And that goes for any subscription connected to Disney. People are even posting instructions on how to cancel their Hulu bundle. And they're saying instead of going to Disneyland, they're gonna go to Universal.
Is there anything Disney can do?
It's too late! But it doesn't just stop at Disney. People are now saying any company that fires somebody over the Charlie Kirk incident will be boycotted too. But Disney's gonna be used as the prime example. So far, the companies listed are CNN, American Airlines, Office Depot, Washington Post, MSNBC, Microsoft, DC Comics, Warner Brothers, Sony, Delta Airlines, and any other company that dares fire somebody over free speech. Why would they do that?
There's more unemployed people than jobs available right now. Now's not the time to be firing somebody for something they said that wasn't even malicious or hateful.
Yeah, well, let's do that!
So I just canceled my Disney Plus subscription, my ESPN subscription, Paramount Plus, and Hulu. Let me know if there's any others that I'm missing so that I can go ahead and cancel those too. As a family of 5, we were planning on going on a Disney vacation at the end of the year, and those plans have now been canceled. We are going on a different type of vacation. I have seen so many videos on my For You page of so many people saying that they canceled. A lot of people also had vacations planned and they canceled those too. Between yesterday and today, millions of people in the US and Canada have already canceled. And the Disney website was so overwhelmed yesterday that every time I tried to cancel, it kept crashing. Disney was not equipped for the influx of cancellations. And last I checked, Disney stock went down significantly. So clearly the boycott is working. Let me know in the comments if you are gonna be canceling, what you're canceling. And like I said, whatever I'm missing from the list that is tied to you know what. And then tell me what you're subscribing to instead. I'm still keeping my Netflix because last I checked, they're not affiliated. I did see some comments of people saying that they're gonna be subscribing to PBS and donating to PBS, which is something that I will be doing as well. But aside from that, please share your ideas in the comments because we are not fooling with Disney anymore.
And here's the part that really gets me, right? Disney built its brand on teaching kids not to back down to bullies. Like, how many of us grew up on The Lion King? Remember when little Simba gets told to run away and never return? The whole point of his arc was finding his voice, standing up to Scar, and saying, nah, you don't get to run this place anymore. Or take Mulan, an entire movie about someone breaking the mold, standing up to tradition, and proving everyone wrong by being brave enough to speak up. And yet, here comes Disney in real life, pulling the plug on Jimmy Kimmel for exercising free speech. Like, they completely forgot the lessons in their own catalog. Imagine firing somebody for doing the exact thing your movies have been preaching for decades. It's wild. It's like Mickey Mouse woke up one day and said, actually, kids, if a bully tells you to shut up, you should just smile, nod, and maybe buy some merch on the way out. But people weren't buying it. Literally. The backlash, the boycotts, the dragging online, it was like everyone collectively said, nah, Disney, we learned from your own movies not to let this slide. And honestly, that's why they're in the find out stage now. Let's keep watching.
Man, you people were serious on Disney. Disney, $3 billion estimated loss in just maybe 3 or 4 days? You guys really had a long talk with Disney. $3 billion. People were canceling their timeshare vacations. They're canceling literal ownership of timeshare condos. They're canceling lifetime memberships with Disney World. I'm witnessing a empire lose. And the people are speaking, and they're speaking very loud. I mean, I know people that are literally canceling memberships that they've had for decades. Man, Disney, you really stepped on your own ass. And quite frankly, I don't think bringing Jimmy Kimmel back is going to do anything except fuel the fire of pissed that people are at you right now. You really underestimated your fan base. You made a decision that hurt the quality of your reputation. And now you must sit back and face the lashes.
Sometimes I wonder if Disney accidentally made half their movies as training manuals for what we're going through in America right now. Like, you don't even need to be a political junkie to see the parallels. Take A Bug's Life. Remember that scene where the grasshoppers were eating the ants' food, laughing, and acting like they were untouchable? The ants had been conditioned to think they were powerless. But the moment they realized they outnumbered the grasshoppers, everything flipped. That's literally America right now. Billionaires, corporations, and the MAGA machine keep gaslighting regular folks into thinking they're weak, divided, and voiceless. But if the ants in a cartoon figured out their collective power, then what excuse do we have? The truth is, we outnumber the grasshoppers of our world too. Now, jump to Zootopia. The whole movie is about how fear can be weaponized to divide people. The predators were being framed as dangerous just for existing, and the city was manipulated into turning against them. Sound familiar? MAGA has been running that exact same playbook. Immigrants, minorities, the woke, all turned into scapegoats so the real issues, like corporate greed and political corruption, stay hidden in the shadows. Just like in Zootopia, people get so distracted by fear-driven narratives that they can't see who's pulling the strings. And if we don't snap out of it, we're basically letting the foxes run the henhouse. Except in this case, it's billionaires sipping champagne while we argue over scraps. And then there's Beauty and the Beast. One of the most chilling parts of that movie isn't even the Beast. It's Gaston leading the mob. Think about it. A charming narcissist with no actual knowledge, no real plan, but a gift for stirring up rage and fear. He gets the entire town to march with pitchforks and torches yelling "Kill the Beast" without even understanding what they're fighting. That is MAGA in a nutshell. It's not about logic, it's not about truth, it's about vibes and manipulation. A lot of folks are so deep in the mob mentality that they don't even realize they're being used as tools for someone else's ego trip. All three stories are teaching us the same thing in different ways. A Bug's Life shows us that collective power is real. Zootopia shows us how fear is used to divide and control. And Beauty and the Beast shows us what happens when you blindly follow a narcissistic leader into chaos. These aren't just fairy tales, they're warnings. And maybe, just maybe, it's time America takes a page out of these stories and realizes we still have the power to flip the script.
So I just canceled my Disney Plus subscription, and I want to walk you through what happened because they've made it more difficult to cancel. There's no cancellation button on the immediate page anymore. Now you have to log in and then choose a specific profile and then go into the settings and then hit cancel. And then this happens. First, they ask you, are you sure you want to cancel? Here's a subsidized rate, or alternatively, here's a way for you to pause the subscription for a couple of months. When you say you still want to cancel, then they give you another retention page and they remind you of all the shows and movies that you'll be missing out on if you cancel your Disney Plus account. And then when you say, no, I still want to cancel, then it takes you to yet a third retention page, still asking you to reconsider, and that if you really want to cancel, to give the reason why you want to cancel. And that's why I told them very quickly and briefly that I don't want my hard-earned money to go to fascists who are anti-free speech. And then finally, when they let you cancel, they remind you that you still have the subscription for several more weeks, and they want you to reactivate the account. Early reports are that Disney stock has already plunged 7% in light of firing Jimmy Kimmel. Guys, at the end of the day, canceling Disney Plus is not going to stop fascism by itself, but it sends a message to these billion-dollar corporations that we are paying attention and that we will not tolerate this kind of fascism. And finally, I will say, if you have the capacity to transfer those funds to independent journalists, to activists, to people actually speaking truth to power, subscribe to them. Let's create a future by investing in people actually committed to justice and human rights, not those corporations capitulating to fascism.
Disney and ABC just caved for the second time in 5 days. This time, under heavy boycott pressure, they decided to put Kimmel back on the air. Let's talk about why this really matters and what it can teach us moving forward. Corporations are going to keep caving to the Trump administration as long as they think that it's the path of least resistance. When Brendan Carr, the chair of the FCC, went on a far-right podcast and told Disney, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, and threatened to pull their broadcast license over some comments that Kimmel made, Disney decided that it was easier to give up on the First Amendment and cave to the Trump administration than it would be to fight. But then so many of us started canceling our Disney Plus and Hulu subscriptions that we crashed their website multiple times. They were hemorrhaging customers, and they were pissing off millions of Americans who saw rightly that this was a true First Amendment issue, that Disney had caved to censorship from the Trump administration. Disney put Kimmel back on the air because they realized that it was more costly to cave to Trump than it was to stand up to him. They learned it a little too late, though, because the damage is done for Disney. But other corporations are going to see this. Other institutions are going to see this. And what we need every time someone caves to Trump is significant public pushback, however we can get it. Fascism works when institutions fold. When institutions stand up and fight, fascism cannot take root. But the only thing that's going to keep institutions from folding to fascism is pressure from us, the consumers, the students who attend universities, the alumni of universities, the clients of law firms. Wherever you have a little tiny bit of power, stand up and fucking use it. Fascists are scared of us. They're scared of a fucking late night comedian, for Christ's sake. Let's keep pushing, keep up the pressure, and make sure that institutions stop folding to a president whose numbers are way underwater, who is deeply unpopular with the American public right now, and who is fucking so weak that he wants to cancel late night comedians. Kudos to the folks who put this boycott together. Kudos to everyone who participated. Let's keep moving forward.
Now, here's where I want to pause and pull from Disney itself, because isn't it funny how the company that built its empire on telling stories about bravery and standing up to bullies seems to forget its own lessons when real life comes knocking? I mean, you can't make this up. Take Remember the Titans, classic Disney film, one of their best. It's about a high school football team in Virginia during integration. The community was losing its mind because black kids and white kids were going to have to play together. The school board was terrified. The parents were angry. The pressure was heavy. And what did most of the adults do? They wanted to bend to the prejudice because it was easier. They wanted peace through compliance, not justice. Sound familiar? That's the same vibe corporations give off when MAGA stomps its feet. Instead of standing tall, they fold, even when folding goes directly against their stated values. Coach Boone didn't cave. He didn't water things down to appease the loudest, angriest people in the room. He said, no, this is the right thing to do, and we're going to do it. And when the players, ordinary kids, finally bought into the vision of unity, they didn't just win games, they won over the whole community. Why? Because courage has a ripple effect. Now contrast that with what we just saw with Disney. A company with billions of dollars at its disposal, global influence, a household name, more resources than entire countries. And instead of embodying the values it's literally marketed for decades, it folded to political pressure. They didn't stand with the people. They didn't stand with the Constitution. They bowed to a movement that thrives on silencing opposition, even though history and their own storytelling has shown that true strength comes from doing the hard thing. And if Remember the Titans doesn't drive it home enough, let's bring in Newsies, one of my all-time favorites. That's literally a Disney musical about kids, poor, underpaid, overlooked kids, going up against two of the biggest media moguls of their time, Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst. Pulitzer thought he could squeeze them for more profit. No problem. The kids didn't matter. They were expendable. And at first, the system looked unbeatable. But when the newsboys banded together, when they finally realized, hey, we've got power if we stick together, suddenly the big bad corporations had to listen. That's the lesson. Always has been. Corporations don't change out of the kindness of their heart. They change when people force them to. That's what happened in Newsies, and that's what's happening right now when consumers call out Disney, boycott, and push back against censorship. It's the exact same dynamic. Regular people standing up to the giants who thought they could trample them without consequence. And it just blows my mind that Disney, of all companies, doesn't seem to recognize this. They sell us the message: stand up to the bully, do the right thing, fight for unity. And then in real life, they do the exact opposite. It's like Gaston running Disney's PR department. The hypocrisy is unreal. So yeah, if we're going to learn anything from Disney this week, it's not from their executives. It's from their stories. Remember the Titans, remember the Newsies, because those lessons are timeless. Stand tall, don't cave, and never forget. When people unite, they've got way more power than any boardroom or politician wants to admit.
Disney, baby, that was fast. Disney said, forget the rapture. Jimmy Kimmel coming back tomorrow. Forget Jesus. Jimmy coming. They said they made the decision at an emotional time for the country. But they spent the last couple of days thinking about it and talking to Jimmy. And they decided to come back. Boy, that money hurt, don't it? Ooh.
Okay, so this is wild. Some Disney stars, like the ones we grew up watching, are boycotting their own premieres. They're just not coming, not walking the red carpet, nothing. And I think that sends a pretty big message. I hope that has the impact as intended. Millions of people are unsubscribing from their Disney Plus plans and boycotting all things Disney.
I don't know why the nation decided to fuck with Disney adults, but it looks like Disney has lost $3.5 billion since Kimmel's been taken off air. With the boycott, I'm assuming Disneyland's just going to be overrun by Orange County conservatives and just conservatives in general. No, because they're going to be, it's a small world. They would throw another January 6th because there's, different languages on the ride, and they wouldn't understand. They'd see Donald Duck with a sombrero on the ride and call ICE. He doesn't have paperwork. And I couldn't even imagine the outrage at Disney World and Epcot with all of the countries, and not every single one of them is the United States. Their biggest advocate is Snoop Dogg out here taking his fucking nephew to the movie and saying, I don't know how to talk about this. I don't know how to explain this to my kids. Anyways, here's your friendly reminder to cancel your Hulu subscription, as I need to do the same when I get home.
Damn, Disney. Just last week you was the man, Disney. What the fuck happened to you? Disney done lost $3.8 billion since we've been boycotting their ass. That's almost $4 billion in market value that Disney done lost. And that's just the beginning. That was overnight. I believe that was 24 hours, so I don't even know where they at now. Y'all keep it up and we gonna have the whole Mickey Mouse Club out here signing up for unemployment. Y'all might got goofy, but we fucking hilarious when it comes to our freedom of speech.
I've seen some conservatives trying to spin this whole thing as left-on-left cancellation, and honestly, I get why Trump loves them so much, because math isn't their strong suit. This is not about left versus left. It's not even really about Jimmy Kimmel. Sure, Jimmy has his fans, he's funny to some, not to others, but this moment isn't about comedy. It's about the First Amendment, free speech. The same rights that protect conservatives also protect liberals, independents, every single American. Why is that such a difficult concept to understand? It's not about whether you think Jimmy's hilarious. It's about saying, I may not agree with you, but you have the right to say it. That's what democracy is built on. And yeah, words come with consequences. But the point is, the freedom has to apply equally. One of the people who understood that balance better than anyone was President Obama. Remember him? People would boo at his rallies, and instead of weaponizing it, he'd calm them down. Don't boo. They have the right to dissent. That's leadership. Now compare that with Trump, who stood at Charlie Kirk's funeral and said his bone to pick with Charlie was that Charlie forgave people. Meanwhile, Trump proudly admits he hates his opponents and never forgives. Think about that for a second. The man who wants to be the face of America literally bragging about holding grudges, about hating fellow citizens. That's not leadership, that's poison. And listen, I know some of you watching may really dislike your political opponents. And look, I don't want to downplay the reality that yes, there are extreme cases out there. People who are so radicalized by their ideology that it can and has led to the destruction of property, the loss of livelihoods, and in the worst cases, even the loss of life. That's real and it's tragic. My heart goes out to anyone who has been directly impacted by that kind of extremism, because it's devastating and it leaves scars that don't just vanish. But here's the thing. Those radicals, whether they're on the far left or the far right, are still the minority. The vast majority of people on both sides of the aisle aren't out here plotting violence. They're just trying to pay bills, raise kids, and live their lives. That's where sobriety needs to prevail. We can't let the loudest, most unhinged voices dictate what America is, because if we do, we start to believe that every red voter or every blue voter is an extremist waiting to snap. And that's just not reality. Most of us want peace, safety, stability, and a fair shot at life. It's those elites we need to worry about. Imagine if Americans stopped playing that game and just asked ourselves the basics. We all want health without going bankrupt. We all want education without lifelong debt. We all want food that doesn't cost half our paycheck. We want safe schools, safe streets, seniors living with dignity, vets respected, workers not begging for scraps. These aren't radical leftist dreams. These are common human needs. And that's why the system thrives on chaos. Because if you ever wake up to the fact that you and your so-called enemy want the same thing, their whole scam collapses. So they keep throwing one chaotic event after another at you. They don't even give your brain enough time to breathe before the next distraction hits, dividing us further. At the end of the day, this isn't about Jimmy Kimmel. It isn't even about Trump. It's about whether we're finally ready to see the playbook for what it is and stop being pawns in someone else's game.
Good morning. Today is Monday, September 22nd, and the trending topic in America is boycotts. That's right. Everybody is boycotting every motherfucking thing in this country. So much so, your girl's starting to feel like Oprah and this bitch reporting this news. You get a boycott, you get a boycott, you get a boycott. We're just boycotting every fucking thing. All right, getting straight into it. Due to the cancellation of the Jimmy Kimmel late night talk show, a call made by ABC, right? ABC is facing a boycott like no other. Not only are Americans calling to have the entire channel removed, yes, you heard right, there is a petition that currently has 200,000 signatures calling, demanding for the channel to be shut down, as well as Disney, Hulu, ESPN subscriptions being canceled left and right. Disney stocks are tanking. As a result, apparently Disney has lost $3.87 billion, and even Disney stars have been supporting the boycott, calling for their fans to boycott Disney and ABC. Y'all see the title of that article? Disney faces $3.8 billion loss as boycott grows over Jimmy Kimmel's suspension. You see what I have highlighted in the purple, right? So it says September 20th, 2025, according to Culture Base, the company's market value reportedly dropped by $3.87 billion overnight. See, this is why you don't fuck around, so you don't gotta find out. This is why. You would have thought that after seeing what happened with Target, when they decided to bite the hand of their main target audience, what would happen as far as your business and its longevity. You'd think they would have took that as the warning that it should have been, but instead they decided that they wanted to go and play this game too. So now ABC is in the same boat as targeting them. Not just that, Jerry from Ben and Jerry's, the ice cream company that we all love, has officially stepped down from his own company, leaving a $1 billion company that he spent the last 48 years building. Why? Because the parent company, Unilever, right? I don't think that I'm saying it correctly, refuses to speak up and speak out on the social injustices that plague this country. Now, if you know anything about Ben and Jerry, the founders of Ben and Jerry ice cream, that you know that they're all about equality, that they're all about social justice, that they're all about togetherness. You understand? They want everybody to eat, quite literally. Like, they want everybody to eat. So this comes as an ultimate boss move from Jerry, for you to step down from your own company because it clashes with your beliefs. It clashes with your morals, the way that the people who now own it, you understand, who own the majority stocks, are choosing to use your name, your brand, in a way that you do not condone, that you do not agree with, for you to walk away from that. Because that right there is just, it's so admirable. It's so admirable. And now we went from, we're not eating nothing but Ben and Jerry's, to now we're not even fucking eating Ben and Jerry's. Because, yeah, why would we? I guess the moral of this video is, if you can't stand up for something, then you'll fall for anything and everything. Honestly. And the true testament of your fight is not when you're speaking up and speaking out when you have nothing to lose, but when you have everything to lose.
Guys, there is power in unity, that's for sure. But let me address this mindset floating around out there, especially from some conservative corners where they keep saying this is liberals canceling liberals. And I have to laugh a little, not because it's funny, but because of how off the mark it is. That statement completely misses the point of what's happening right now. This isn't about cancel culture in the way MAGA tries to weaponize the word. This isn't about people on the left gleefully eating their own. It's about accountability, about standing up for the values we say we believe in, even when it's inconvenient, even when it involves calling out someone who might be on our side. That's what true liberalism is. See, the difference between liberalism and MAGA cult mentality is simple. Liberalism makes room for dissent, for self-correction, for saying, hey, if that's the direction you're going, we're not with you. MAGA doesn't do that. If Trump says jump, they don't even ask how high. They just hit their heads on the ceiling fan trying. But on the left, we have the backbone to say no, to challenge each other, and to call out rotten apples before they spoil the whole barrel. That's the difference between a movement that allows for free thought and a cult that suffocates it. And let me get personal for a moment. Earlier this year, I felt embarrassed. A video went viral of a man who considered himself a leftist, who thought he was making some kind of bold protest statement by keying a Tesla. Yes, a Tesla. Now, I understand the frustration people have with Musk. I understand boycotting his platforms. I understand pulling advertising dollars from his projects. I even understand mocking his antics online. But keying someone's car? That's not protest. That's just vandalism. And the kicker is, he had no idea whose car it was. For all he knew, it could have belonged to another liberal who hated Musk just as much as he did. Maybe someone who had been boycotting Twitter too. Or someone who had donated to progressive causes. He didn't stop to think. He just acted. That, to me, is the danger of losing sight of our principles. It made me feel like we're better than that, because we are. Boycotts were working. Musk was feeling the financial heat. Consumer pressure was shifting the landscape. That was legitimate power in action. Nonviolent, collective, effective. But that man's choice to vandalize undermined the bigger point. It wasn't strategy, it wasn't resistance, it wasn't even effective. It was pure emotion without critical thought. And that's where I want to circle back to the Disney situation. People keep trying to spin this as liberals canceling liberals when Jimmy Kimmel got pushed off air for exercising free speech. But no, this was about people across the board, from different political stripes, saying enough is enough. Saying, we may not agree with everything Kimmel says, but he has the right to say it. That's not cancel culture. That's people standing up for the First Amendment, the exact same right conservatives scream about when it's convenient, but suddenly forget when it's someone they don't like. And that brings me to a lesson from Boy Meets World. There's a powerful episode where Sean, one of the main characters, finds himself sucked into a cult. His friends, Corey, Topanga, Mr. Feeney, they don't just shrug and say, well, that's Sean's choice. They confront him. They say, if that's what you're going to do, if you're going to go down that path, we can't go with you. That wasn't easy. Sean was their friend. But real love, real respect sometimes means drawing a line and saying, we're not standing by while you get pulled into something destructive. That's what liberals are doing when they call out people on their own side. That's what consumers did when they pushed back on Disney. That's what happens when people say, we're not a cult. We're not blind followers. We can disagree, and we can even call each other out, because accountability matters. And that's the irony in conservatives trying to mock this as liberals canceling liberals. They can't see that it's actually strength, not weakness. It's proof that we're not afraid to challenge ideas even when they come from our own tribe. So here's my takeaway. Unity is powerful, but blind unity is dangerous. What we need is sober unity, thoughtful unity, where we don't just follow for the sake of following, where we can stand together on principle, not just personality, where we can hold each other accountable without tearing each other apart. If a Disney movie like A Bug's Life can show us how the ants realized they had more power than the grasshoppers once they stood together, if a show like Boy Meets World can remind us that sometimes true friendship means calling someone out, then surely we, as grown adults in America, can figure out how to protect our democracy without sinking into cult behavior. And maybe, just maybe, that means pausing before we key a Tesla. Or before we laugh about liberals canceling liberals. Or before we fall into the trap of thinking it's us versus us. Because at the end of the day, the real fight isn't liberal versus conservative. It's the people versus the elites who profit off our division. And the more we remember that, the harder it'll be for them to win. So, what do you all think? Have you noticed the same patterns? Do you agree that accountability is strength, not weakness? Drop your thoughts below. I'd love to hear them. We've got more to unpack. And trust me, you're not going to want to miss it.
Barack Obama has spoken. Watch this.
So when I hear not just our current president, but his aides, who have a history of calling political opponents vermin, enemies, who need to be targeted, that speaks to a broader problem that we have right now, and something that we're going to have to grapple with, all of us, whether we're Democrats, Republicans, independents. We have to recognize that on both sides, undoubtedly, there are people who are extremists and who say things that are contrary to what I believe are America's core values. But I will say that those extreme views were not in my White House. I wasn't embracing them. I wasn't empowering them. I wasn't putting the weight of the United States government behind extremist views. And that is when we have the weight of the United States government behind extremist views, we've got a problem. And so your original question is, are we at an inflection point? We're at an inflection point in the sense that we always have to fight for our democracy. And we have to fight for those values that have made this country the envy of the world. And I often say democracy is not self-executing. It depends on us as citizens, regardless of our political affiliations, to stand up for certain core values, because Otherwise, we may not have them.